Now, Pete, when you told me we were going to get our first guest today, I just love this guy. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
How can you not?
I mean, class guy, makes time for everybody. Of course, he has the Jaws Youth Fund, ESPN, NFL alumni, NFL matchup show.
That's the one. That's his baby,
The
man.
former Eagles quarterback. Let's go to the Maserati, the main line sports hotline, and welcome in the one and only Ron Jaworski. What's up, Jaws?
Billy, awesome being with you. And Pete, we had a blast on Friday night. So it's always fun to be with you guys talking ball.
Now, Pete gives me a hard time, Jaws. Remember we went to the premiere of the American Hero or American Underdog? Yep. All right, Pete's mad at me because we didn't invite him, but he didn't invite me to the thing last night, so we're even.
Paybacks, man, payback.
That's true. He missed out on the delicious meal. Yeah, no, I was bad. I would have liked to have seen American Underdog, but
great movie. How come it's not up for an Oscar, Jaws?
You can go see it. It is a fantastic movie.
Yo, you know what? Jaws, that movie was funny. When we're sitting in there, all these big Spags, all your guys were in there, and there was a couple of parts in the movie. It was a tearjerker. I would say it was emotional, and I was looking straight ahead, not to see anybody see me tearing up.
Yeah, I mean it's about Kurt Warner. It's about him, being an underdog, and making it to the Hall of Fame. It's about a celebration of football. It's about anyone can make it, and obviously Brenda, his wife, had a major part in that. So it was really good family viewing. It was a football movie, but it was a little tearjerker, which makes it much more compelling.
So how about this segue, Jaws? The movie about Kurt Warner. Now, I lived in the Midwest for a while, so I remember those supermarkets were Hy-Vee. He was working at the Hy-Vee supermarket, and then he's the NFL MVP and in the Super Bowl and all that. Well, we had a guy that we honored Friday night who was 5'7", 165, always told, you're too small, you can't play. That's Dino Hall, who went on to succeed with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that's just sort of emblematic of what the night was about and where it all starts with youth football, Ron Jaworski, and I know that's something you're passionate about. Yeah,
no question, Pete. And by the way, it was a fun night. It was great to be around football people and incredible energy in that room. Over 500 people at Bally's. Jimmy Frazier did a great job of organizing. With COVID and the pandemic, it was delayed almost 2 years, but it was great to be a part of it. And I got to tell you, Friday morning, I was talking to Terry Bradway on a phone call. And, he got me pumped up. Terry Bradway has done so much for the Shore region and such a great football guy and football family. And I was excited about, being there on Friday night. But, when Terry started discussing the history of the league, the people that had been involved with it, I came down there, guns a-blazing, man. I was looking forward to just being around football people, high-energy people, disciplined, consistent with what they do, a mission. It was fantastic to celebrate 65 years of the Atlantic County, junior football league. It was just a great night. But I applaud all those people that were involved. Greg Roman was there, who's going to be, now the coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be a head coach. There's no doubt of that. We had scouts, we had former NFL players. It was just, it was just high energy football guys and ladies. Because the cheerleaders now, the administrators become such a major part of moving the game forward.
No doubt, Ron Jaworski. Ron Jaworski's with us on the Maserati, the mainline hotline. He's our guest here in the locker room, and it was great to be there and in all those different levels. And I know you told a story, and maybe we'll share it again here with our listening audience about how your youth fund, which is such a big thing, the Jaws Youth Fund, was able to help out a local team, the Ventnor Pirates.
Well, fortunately through the years, in 38 years, I've been running golf tournaments and 5K runs and a cigar party with Mike Ditka at the Super Bowl. And, we've raised a lot of money for at-risk youth in our community. And every dollar we raise goes right back into the community. And you did mention the Ventnor Pirates when Superstorm Sandy hit and, devastated the Jersey Shore. And, people worked really hard to restore the shore. And for the most part, everyone did a great job. But the Ventnor Pirates didn't get much funding for their Little League program. They lost their helmets, their jerseys, their shoulder pads. The cheerleaders' uniforms were destroyed. The concession stand was destroyed. And we got Trish, who handles the Jaws Youth Playbook, got kind of an emergency call from the Ventnor Pirates saying, hey, we're going to have to cancel our season. if we don't get some help. And Trish called me the next day, and she said that they need $30,000. And I said, cut them a check.
Wow.
You know, get those kids back off the street, get them playing ball, get them cheering, get their parents involved. And I still remember standing at the 50-yard line for the ribbon cutting and seeing hundreds of kids on that sideline, the players, the cheerleaders, the coaches. And I'm thinking, man, where would these kids be if we didn't help these kids out? And by giving them that $30,000 check to get that program jump-started again, you know, there'd be more problems. They'd be on the streets. They'd be on the corners. But now they're organized. They're playing football. They're learning discipline. They're learning what it takes to be a good teammate. So, you know, those are the things that I really enjoy doing. And football has kind of given me that forum where I can, you know, I get great support for the events that I get involved with, and that money goes right back into the community. So thank you, Pete. I'm very proud of what the Jaworski Playbook has been able to accomplish through the years.
And that's a true testament of Ron Jaworski, and that's got to give you such a intense, gratification to know that you're helping these kids out.
No doubt about it. You know, I mean, even like Friday night, we're talking about different things like that we need to fund these programs. You know, I spoke not only Friday night, but Sunday morning. I went down Saturday morning, went down to Lincoln Financial Field for the Philadelphia Youth Football Coalition, which is starting. And, hey, you know what? They're doing the same thing. They're trying to jumpstart their Little League, get these kids off the street, you know, teach them football, teach them discipline, you know, teach them teamwork. So, you know, football is a great way to put people together, you know, form positive approaches to their lives. And, you know, football's been my life. You know, 17 years in the NFL, 4 years in high school, 4 years in college, you know, 31 years at ESPN, ABC. It's been my life, and I've learned so many great things. I've met so many great people that motivates me to give back. And then when I see the success we've had with some of these youth programs and, you know, the foundations that we've supported, it just charges my batteries to want to do more.
And Jaws, we're talking about an underdog. I mean, I know you're following the tournament, but how about the St. Peter story? Is this unbelievable? I mean, talking about the underdog, American underdog, and helping kids come from, you know, lower socioeconomic situations to making it. I mean, it's a great story.
It's a phenomenal story. I'll be heading down there in about 4 hours to watch that game. So I'm really looking forward to heading down and seeing that. I mean, what a great story. North Carolina, St. Peter's. I mean, David and Goliath. Come on, it's great. And it's really what makes sports great. You just never know. You never really know to see these young kids, you know, put forth this tremendous effort. Hey, it's going to be a Herculean task to beat North Carolina, but the way this team is playing, they're playing with great confidence and a great representation of the state of New Jersey.
So no speaking engagements on a Sunday? I mean,
he'll be able to actually go to the game without giving his tickets away.
Yeah, I was.
Pete, you had me Friday night, man. I got to go watch this game today.
I thought it was so gracious of you to admit that too. Like, you know, you kind of quietly told me, like, man, you know, I'm actually supposed to be at that, but hey, I committed, so here I am. And we were
committed. You made a commitment. You fulfilled that commitment.
We were all honored by your presence. I guess the last thing we'll ask you about, you talked about coaches in your speech, and thank you to my friend Don Hurley. I'm going to get the video to Coffee for you, Jaws, so you can put it up through your Twitter page as well. You spoke for 18 minutes, and you mentioned Don Shula, you mentioned Dick Vermeil, and you mentioned Marty Schottenheimer, and you mentioned Chuck Knoll, right? Or Chuck Knox, excuse me, right? Chuck Knox, wrong ending there. But 4 coaches that really sort of taught you, and then you segued that into the fact that these youth coaches play such a big role in these kids' lives that they don't even realize. And I know that you know, you're really lucky and blessed, Jaws, to have played for some unbelievable coaches.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big believer in these coaches as leaders and educators. You know, and they do it because they love the game. They love working with kids. And you know, I talked about pro coaches, but I could have talked about my high school coach, my college coach, and more coaches, because I absolutely feel that any success I've had as an athlete or as a person is relative to what they've taught me. Teach young people the lessons of life in a positive way, people will be successful. You know, the coaches you just mentioned that I played for, you know, won over 1,000 games. Think of that, 1,000 games as NFL head coaches, 1,000 games. So I was very fortunate to play with some of the best leaders in history. You know, the Don Shules, the Dick Vermeils, the Marty Schottenheimers, the Chuck Knoxes. And I didn't even get to Buddy Ryan, guys like that I had short stints with. And they all taught me certain lessons in life. And I have unbelievable respect for those people that work with young and teach them how to do things the right way.
Now, Jaws, I want to talk a little bit about your expertise in football, because the Eagles have 3 first-round draft choices, and everybody's speculating on what's going to go on and what's the biggest need for you. Put your GM hat on. For you, what is the biggest need? I don't put you on the spot, but for you, what's the biggest need for the Eagles? I mean, they got a 15, 16, and 19. Their defense was a Achilles heel last year, and but there's a quarterback issue. Not too many quarterbacks in the draft this year. Where do you think the Eagles should go?
It's a wonderful time of the year. It's just like Christmas if you love football. You know, the free agent period, the draft's coming up. We're still 5 weeks away, and there's a long way to go. A lot of evaluating to do, but I think this draft sets up the Eagles for a really good run if they get it right, and they have to get this right. You mentioned 15, 16, 19. They also have 40. So you're looking at 4 picks in the top 40. If you look at the history of those picks, you should get all pro players. If you're selecting right, coaching them right, in the right organization, the right situation, those 4 players should be in the Pro Bowl. So this is an opportunity for the Eagles to really fortify what they feel they need. Now, everyone's got opinions. I do as well. I think certainly you got to look at a linebacker. Today's NFL now forces your linebackers to be fast, to be quick, to cover guys out of the backfield. Then they get Hassan Reddick in the acquisition from Carolina, which certainly fortifies that area. This is a good draft for linebackers that have to play the NFL style. It's just not thumpers anymore like Jeremiah Trotter and Bill Berge. You got to cover guys on the back, these scat backs on the backfield. So there's a premium now on linebackers, and historically the Eagles have not valued the linebacker position, but that's going to change because they're going to be forced to change and bring in more active cover-type linebackers rather than those thumpers. I don't think the defensive line performed up to its capability a year ago, and I think priority has to be that edge rusher. And I mentioned Reddick. I'm going to go as a cover guy, but he can also rush the quarterback, a Temple grad, a local kid. So I'm excited to see how he performs, as an Eagle. And I think the wide receiver position still needs to be upgraded. So this is a good deep draft in wide receiver. So I would expect the Eagles to go after a wide receiver as well. And they tried through free agency, but they haven't been fortunate. They've aggressively pursued wide receivers in free agency. They got outbid for every guy they looked at. So who knows? I think you may see one of those early picks going to a wide receiver.
Well, and they did get one guy, Jaws, and this is what I wanted to ask you too. All 3 free agent signings, all 3 of them for the Eagles so far, all have ties to the region. You mentioned Hassan Reddick, the Temple kid who grew up in. Where, Billy? Where did he grow up?
He grew up in Camden, but he played his high school football at Haddon Heights.
Very good. Zach Pascal, and by the way, Pascal was like a computer language, but he apparently is, Nick Sirianni trained, right, because Sirianni had involvement. So he comes from Indy and grew up about 100 miles from the Philadelphia area, so he has ties to the region. And now this linebacker they've picked up, Kaiser White, who grew up in Lehigh County. What does it say to you, Jaws, that the 3 free agent guys they got all sort of have ties and understand Eagles football?
I think it was more of a coincidence than say, hey, let's get local players. Zach Pascal is a guy, he's not going to catch 100 balls. He's going to be a slot tough guy. He's going to make the tough catches in a crowd. He's going to block. He's not a blazing kind of guy, but he's a Nick Sirianni guy. Nick had him in Indianapolis, and he's the kind of guy that Nick knows will set the tempo. He's a tough, hard-nosed football player. So clearly, I think an upgrade, a bigger, stronger guy that can play in the slot. Kaiser White is a guy that, he was a secondary player for most of his career. So he's fast, he's quick, and as a linebacker, now you get a kind of guy that, as I mentioned a moment ago, you need these kinds of players on your roster right now because teams are coming after you with not only 3 wide, but 4 wide and 5 wide. So you better have linebackers that can cover. You better have depth in the secondary because it's a new NFL as we now see, man. It's it's Chuck and Duck right now, man. It's just they're slinging it all over the place. And And Reddick, you mentioned the kid from Camden. He had great success in Arizona and Carolina. So, and it's as we said, a local Camden kid. But I think he's another guy that brings that speed and quickness to that defense. Another good acquisition.
We're talking with legendary Eagles quarterback, former Eagles quarterback Ron Jaworski on the Maserati, the Mainline Sports Hotline. Jaws quarterback. I mean, everybody's talking. Is Jalen Hurts our guy? Is he not our guy? This is not a deep draft for quarterbacks coming out. You got Pickett and Corral from Ole Miss. What's your opinion on the quarterback position?
Well, they've obviously anointed Jalen Hurts as the quarterback this year. I saw a nice, steady improvement from Jalen, last year. But I was hugely disappointed in his playoff performance against Tampa Bay. Hugely disappointed. And it really knocked my evaluation down because, like I said, I saw the incremental growth throughout the season, doing good things. But the playoff game really bothered me. He had a lot of misreads. He didn't play where you need to play. He didn't elevate the football team in that game. I called that game for Westwood 1, and I'm going, man, I'm trying to cover for my Birds. Not much I can do. Not much I can do when it was 31-0. And a hugely disappointing performance by the quarterback. So, I in my mind, I just can't say, oh, that's our guy for the future. Right. I just can't do it. I got to be objective, and I got to evaluate the quarterback position as I see it. And you guys know, hey, I'm sitting in my home office right now. I get this big, large screen in front of me, and by the next morning after every game, I got all the coaches' tape loaded up. So I watch the game on the All-22 and make my evaluation. So, like I said, I thought he had nice incremental growth throughout the regular season, but I was very disappointed in the playoff performance.
Jaws, let's end with a funny one because Billy just mentioned you're on the Maserati of the Mainline hotline. Unfortunately, we do not have the power to give you a free Maserati.
Why not? Right? Oh, come on.
Go see Michael Pileggi up there.
I was thinking about back in the day, I used to always see on the Meineke commercials, right? Hey, I'm Jaws, right? So let's do this, Ron Jaworski. Tell me about some of the funniest or more memorable sponsorships, maybe some in the early days that you were like, wait a minute, what do I have to say? I don't even like that tuna. Or like,
I'll give you one right now. Tobin Fries Polska Kielbasa, man. That was it right there. I had all the Polish sausage I could ever eat by being a spokesperson for Tobin First Prize Polska Kielbasa. And also it was Karl Jastrzemski. Remember the other Polish guy that was a great baseball player with the Boston Red Sox? Both Karl and I were the spokespeople. Man, we got a lot of sausage.
You know what? Another picture was floating around earlier in the year. A picture with back in the day with I think it was you, Perrant, and Julius Erving on the steps of the
and Pete Peters from the 80s.
Pete Peters,
all 14.
Yeah, that was one of the great iconic pictures on the steps of the Art Museum when all four teams. It's never been replicated or duplicated where all four professional teams were in the championship game. Now, unfortunately, it's the 1980 season. We lost the Super Bowl. The Sixers lost in the finals. The only team to win it was the Phillies. The Flyers lost as well. But I mean, I played obviously professional football for 17 years. But man, I still love going to games and cheering the local teams on. So to be in the presence of those guys and to have the good fortune we had in that era, it was just great to be in Philadelphia.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll never forget. It was my senior year in high school in 1980. All the teams made their respective championships, and it's something I'll never forget. And, Jaws, I'm telling you, you're a class act. I really appreciate you taking time on a Sunday morning to speak with us and share some of your thoughts with our listeners. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Pete. Great being with you guys.
Take care, Jaws. Right. Enjoy the game.
Will do.
There he is, Ron Jaworski on the Maserati of the Mainline Sports Hotline.